Morning everyone. Today we're doing a video on cookies and classic chocolate chip, but with a little bit of a twist. People know me that I like to fancy up when I'm doing something, and so we're making chewy banana bread chocolate chip cookies. This is going to be good. As you can see, we've got all my ingredients laid out. A little bit of anal retentiveness / OCD. When you have all that stuff out ahead of time, all that you need according to your ingredients list and directions, both on the countertop and on the stove. We'll show you later. You're just more organized, less stressful, more fun. And that's what it's all about. So we're going to start with a banana. You can see this one's pretty brown. They call for overripe. Reason for that is it's more overripe, it's sweeter, and it'll get a stronger banana flavor. So we're just going to cut that up into pieces, even though we're going to wind up mashing it. But doing that just helps the mashing process, which is a critical step in any cookies. I don't know. Anyway, next up is we're mashing that with some brown sugar, and we're going to add some melted butter to that. So we'll start with mashing the banana. And I always have a fork to do that because it's just the easiest. Overripe is banana is easier to mash, turn the banana into mush, and so we're going to get that going. Okay, got the bananas all mashed up. That's what you want them to look like. Basically looks like baby food. And while this is mashed, of course I got my oven preheating, which is always an important step. Most cookies are 350, but make sure you check your recipes. I'll back up a little bit so you can see my whole beautiful face. And while I'm mashing that and about to get the brown sugar measured out, I've got my butter melting on the stove. This recipe, which I'll have, and if people want it, can send it to. This calls for 1/3 cup of melted butter. And this recipe calls for 1 cup of packed brown sugar. So you can see here, this is a 1/2 cup scoop, but this ain't packed. So when it says packed, it just means not above the rim, packed down hard. And I'm gonna do 2 of these, put these in with my banana while my butter's melting. And as you can see here, I've got brown sugar, the mashed banana, and the 1/3 cup melted butter. And while we were taking a bit of a break to get a few things ready, I've got all my dry ingredients together in a bowl. I like to mix them all up before I'm adding wet to the dry or dry to the wet. So I'll get that all in one bowl. And for this recipe, there's just one ingredient I just about forgot. And that's the salt. We do a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Same amount of baking soda. 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, and 1.33 cups of all-purpose flour. So I get that all blended up, mixed in there. It just helps mixing of all the wet and dry ingredients together. Make sure everything's evenly distributed. And I like doing this with whisk in a bigger than necessary bowl. That way you don't have to worry about making a mess. And it's kind of like if there's any clumps of flour, you're sort of sifting it too, breaking it all up. One of the other wet ingredients that I haven't put in yet is an egg yolk. So I always get out 2 little glass ramekins like this, and you take the egg, lightly crack it, and then you're cracking it into one hand to separate using your fingers to separate the yolk from the white. And of course, don't throw out the white, throw it in an omelet or just cook it as it is, have it with your lunch. But I'll move my big fat hand, throw the egg out. But you can see that I've got the egg yolk not passing through my fingers, but the white is. And you just got to try to get as much of it through there. Plop, and it all falls out. And that way you have the 2 separated. And all you have in one bowl is your yolk. And then the other is your white. You don't use the white in this recipe. So we're just going to get that the hell out of the way and get to more cooking. The next step for the wet ingredients is I'm going to add the egg yolk in there. Bloop. And then we also add the vanilla. And that, for this recipe, is 1 teaspoon exactly. So we'll just go ahead and add that into the wet ingredients. One thing I like to do as I'm going along is when you're done with a specific ingredient, it helps for cleanliness and whatnot, is when you're done, you put that away. It's off the table. You're not gonna knock it over. Just putting shit in my pantry here. And you're not gonna make a mess. Helps her clean out afterwards. Helps just overall efficiency. And Lord knows, if you should be one thing, you should be efficient. Okay, we're gonna mix up the vanilla and the egg yolk and the wet ingredient. And then the very next step, sorry for the bit of the pause there, the very next step is to add those wet into the flour. And then after that, we'll be folding in. Get these two mixed up in the bigger bowl so you don't want to spill over. And then we'll be mixing in, folding in rather, the chocolate chips. So as you can see, it's a pretty wet batter. And the next step we're gonna do, I just use a fork for this one because it actually mixes very well in the bowl. And that way you don't dirty your KitchenAid stand mixer. The next step, you're gonna add in 2/3 of a cup of chocolate chips, folding them in, gently stir. Okay, so we've got our 2/3 of a cup of chocolate chips. Mix it into the wet batter, fold it in. And just to give you an idea, folding is just really gently stirring. You don't want to beat it too hard. It does something to the dough. Pretty much physics, which is a type of science. And this recipe, once you've mixed the chocolate chips in, calls for 15 minutes of rest to let the flour do something magical. I don't know what it is. It says to do it. I'm going to do it, so I don't want to muck these up. So we'll cover those and wait 15 and we'll be back. In the meantime, while that bowl with the dough is covered and resting and doing whatever it does for 15 minutes, we're going to take time to clean our station. Efficient. Okay, so we've got our dough that's been sitting for 15 minutes. We got gloves on, keeps it from sticking to your fingers. And I just like using my hands instead of a cookie scoop or an ice cream scoop. And you want to roll out about 1-inch balls. And when you're doing that, some of the dough will stick to your gloves or your hands or what have you. Don't worry about it, ain't the end of the world. Always start by putting one in the corner of the parchment paper and one in the opposite corner of the sheet. What that does is it prevents your parchment paper from moving around, and that way you're having less rolling out mistakes. And then you just go from there. Again, 1-inch balls, and you're about 12 of them on a sheet, leaving them a couple inches apart because you know they're going to grow when they're baking. Okay, this recipe didn't really exactly say the yield as to how many cookies it would make, but you can kind of get a look at them. My balls are about 1 inch. I could fit 19 of them on 2 trays. And then we put them in the oven for 10 to 11 minutes. When they come out, you want them to be, set around the edges. They'll flatten out, a little bit moist in the middle. And, one thing I learned a long time ago is you never let them, you never take them right off the cookie sheet and put them on a cooling rack. I've got my cooling rack set out, but you always let them go for about 2-3 minutes, or 5 even, so you're in no rush. Right on the cooking sheet, so they set a little bit, cool a little bit, and then only after that you take them out and put them in the oven. So here they go. Okay, this is exciting. Boy, does it smell good in here. As you can guess, it smells like banana bread and chocolate chip cookies. And these are just beautiful. I'm going to switch over to my phone and get a nice close-up shot of these babies. Can't wait to dig into them. And again, I'm going to let them rest as they are on the sheets, on top of cooling racks, so you get airflow underneath. It's science, and they cool down faster. And then once they're done cooling down, I'm going to give them a good 5 minutes, like this. Then I'll put them on the cooling racks. And then some lucky people, including myself, are going to get to eat them. Take care, guys. Okay, and as promised, a nice close-up shot of these chocolate chip banana bread cookies. I can't wait. No, this isn't a drone. This is actually me using my phone.